You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Of all the strengths of Syracuse football, and they have a good number of them because, well, they're 5-1. You got to be good at something to be at 5-1, right? Of all the strengths, I believe that the biggest one for Syracuse, the absolute biggest, is their short passing game. Very specific, I know, but it's their short passing game that makes them so effective on offense. Syracuse as a whole averages 365 passing yards per game, which is second in the country. All right. They are only behind Miami in pass yards per game. Of all the FBS, of all the teams out there, they are number 2 in the nation. But what if I told you that it's not because Kyle McCord throws the ball 70 yards on every single play? What if I told you that, right? Well, it's the truth. Syracuse football, while they can push the ball down the field, they have shown they can, right? We saw that 28-yard touchdown by Umari Hatcher against NC State. We've seen him get behind the defense a number of times to start the year, or at least at the halfway point. But Cuse's bread and butter is not pushing the ball down the field. It is a short to intermediate passing game, and the numbers back it up, because while Syracuse is second in the country in passing yards per game, they are just inside the top 50 in pass yards per attempt. Syracuse averages specifically 7.6 yards per attempt. It's pretty good. Once again, it's top 50 in the nation, but that just goes to show you that this offense is more so short and intermediate than it is pushing the ball down the field on every single play. For context, Miami, who I told you as the number 1 passing offense in the country, they average 10.3 yards per attempt, which is 4th overall. All right. So they have the number 1 passing offense in terms of total yards, and they have the number 4. They're number 4 in the category of yards per attempt. So they really like to push the ball down the field, whereas Syracuse, it's a little bit more dinking and dunking and going more so towards the intermediate route. But I am not complaining about this. In fact, it is Syracuse's biggest strength of the team. I think this is what makes their offense so effective. And there are 2 reasons why the short passing game for Syracuse works really well for them. Number 1, let's start with the quarterback. Kyle McCord is a huge reason why the short passing game works. And you can also factor in the play calling as well. But really what makes Kyle McCord effective is that he gets rid of the ball on time. Very rarely during these first 6 games have I been like, man, Kyle McCord's holding onto the ball too long. He's in the pocket and he's just holding it, right? I've rarely had to say that. Usually it's a couple of seconds in the pocket, and then if nobody's open, he's going to scramble outside and try to find something else. That's how long you got. By the way, that really helps the offensive line because, well, you're getting rid of the ball on time. You're getting rid of it quickly, so you don't have to block for as long. And if nobody is open, Kyle McCord does have some athleticism where he can escape outside of the pocket. Kyle McCord is super duper effective simply by getting rid of the football on time in the short passing game. He's also very smart. This is a very smart guy here. We saw how Syracuse started against UNLV and just absolutely picking apart their zone. That goes to pre-snap reads. All right, pre-snap reads, and that is very, very advanced. All right, very advanced. Now, I'm going to throw out a comparison, but I want to be very clear. I am not putting Kyle McCord on the same stratosphere of these 2 quarterbacks I am going to mention. But I am mentioning these 2 quarterbacks because they are the masters of the pre-snap reads, all right? These 2 guys, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. These were guys who were not the most athletic, all right? These are not guys who are running 4.5 40s at the combine. They're not Lamar Jackson, who has lightning speed. They're not Josh Allen, who can truck you, who's basically a better version of Cam Newton, right? They're not Patrick Mahomes, who they're not going to razzle dazzle you and basically play backyard football, right? These guys were excellent at pre-snap reads. What made them great, once again, pre-snap reads, pocket awareness is essential, right? Knowing when to step up, knowing when to roll outside of the pocket, and getting rid of the ball on time. When it comes to Kyle McCord, who is not the most athletic individual, he can run outside the pocket, and we've seen him run a couple of times during this season. Had that helicopter run against Stanford, had that big run against Georgia Tech. The three things that make him effective: pre-snap reads, pocket awareness, and getting rid of the ball on time. So Kyle McCord is the number one reason why the short passing game really works well for Syracuse, all right? Number two, it goes to Cuse's personnel, specifically their wide receivers and their main running back, LeQuint Allen. In order for a short passing game to work like it has for Syracuse, you need good route runners and you need guys who can run after the catch. And Syracuse has that personnel on their team, all right? Oronde Gadsden is one of the best tight ends in the country. He was an All-American a couple years ago. Obviously, last year he had that injury, which sucked. But he's back this year, and he's playing at a very high level. He was quiet for a couple of games against Stanford and against Holy Cross. But overall, Oronde Gadsden remains the best weapon on Syracuse. He is also very smart. Him and Kyle McCord were dealing in that UNLV game and recognizing zone coverage. I mean, they were just picking it apart. He's a good route runner. He can run after the catch. We have seen him do that at times this season. Oronde Gadsden, excellent, right? Trebor Pena, one of the big breakout stars for Syracuse football at the midway point. He's among the leaders in the country in catches. He's got 42 this season. He's great at working underneath, and he can also run after the catch. At times, they will stretch the field with Trebor Pena, but it's mostly the short and intermediate passing game with Trebor Pena. Jackson Meeks, another very good route runner. We've seen him a number of times dead open on those slant routes. Obviously, he ran a good fade route against UNLV that tied the game. I say good fade route, but that's true. You got to run a good fade route. Got to give Kyle McCord an area to throw the football. He's a good route runner. And then you have LeQuint Allen, who is one of the best receiving backs in the country. The last I checked, which was this morning, LeQuint Allen had the second most catches among all running backs across the nation. So when you put those two factors together and why the short passing game for Syracuse has been so effective and why it's their biggest strength, number one, it's their quarterback, Kyle McCord, all right? Pre-snap reads, pocket awareness, getting rid of the ball on time, which helps the offensive line. And number two, it's Cuse's weapons. They're all guys who are good route runners and can run after the catch, because that's what you need for a short passing game to work. It also helps that you have a guy like Umari Hatcher who can stretch the ball or can stretch the field, forcing the safeties and the linebackers to drop back a little bit more than usual.